Okay, so today what we're going to do is we're going to start the CBSI curriculum. It's a lot like what we have done, but I want to tell you a few things that are different. Shaitan tried to jump ahead and show you some of those things yesterday. So today's the day you get to see all of that put together. So what I like to say is that our spoken CBS method is all about the story. When I say that, I say it's all about story, 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 story. There's 5 elements that you're going to use when you are leading with spoken CBSI. So the first one is the tell the story. We're going to tell the story correctly. We learn the scripture, we memorize it accurately, and we present our story that way. The second one is the piece that we didn't do yesterday because those 2 stories were not in the curriculum, but we are going to tell the story with a picture. So you'll get to see that today. We'll put a picture up on the screen when they tell the story a second time. That does a couple things. It allows our visual learners to hear the story while they see a picture. It helps them to lock that in. It also allows you to hear the story a second time because, like I said, some of our stories are very long. The third step is to tell the story with partners. So you'll be going to your breakout rooms like we did last night. You'll tell as much of the story as you can remember to your partner, and they'll tell you, and then we'll come back together. The fourth one is to tell the story with mistakes. That's what we talked about, the intentional mistakes. You got to see that yesterday. Remember we said focused, funny, and few. So we want our mistakes to be intentional in there, and that helps us with that story. And then the last one is the story questions. So we have 5 questions that go along with the story, and we'll go through those. Another piece that you'll see in the Spoken CBSI curriculum is there's an introduction before each lesson. This is important to oral learners because it helps them categorize the stories that they're going to be learning. So when you do this Old Testament survey part 1, it takes you through Genesis. And so we want to be able to categorize that somehow. And so what we did is they did famous families. And so as you do the introduction, you'll see each story gets introduced, and it starts with the family. So our stories in this are introduced or organized by families. And so the motion we do that is kind of make a little house to organize our families. They all have a central idea. So each family has a central idea, and we do this, it kind of covers over those stories. So our central idea for this first set is going to be relationships. You're going to see that. And so there's always going to be a memory motion that goes along with it. So no matter which trainer or coach you see telling a story, you're going to see all of these aspects in there. So we have our family, our central idea, our memory motion that's going to be different for each central idea. And then we are going to have a name of the story. And so there's our first story is the first creation. So there's going to be a name given. And then we hold our Bible and we give the reference. So it's found in Genesis chapter 1 would be the first one. So you'll see that introduction. So each time we have a story, you'll see the introduction beforehand. You'll do the story. And then the final thing you'll see at the end is a summary. We talked a little bit about that yesterday. But in the manual, there is a summary written out. We want you to be familiar with that so that you can kind of help as you guide that conversation. If there's some really key details, you want to make sure you get there. But we're always going to summarize at the end, and we do that with what does God want us to know? What does God want us to learn? And what does God want us to do? We also open with prayer and end with prayer. We always want to invite God into our discussion, and we always want to thank him for what he's revealed to us in the process. So that, in a nutshell, is our Spoken CBSI curriculum. You'll see in there's a memory verse listed. This is up to your area director, your regional directors. I know with CBS, there's usually a weekly memory verse in your curriculum that you do. With this method, we're learning the entire story. And so as you tell them the story, they're turning and telling each other, they're learning much more than one verse. So they're focused on a story. But if you want to have them focus on that one memory verse, that's up to your local leadership. That's something that we've included in there. It's a verse from the story that we felt could be a good memory verse. But really, that's going to be up to how your leadership decides to use that. So that's our Spoken CBSI method. So you've gotten to see all that. So I will say this, all of the pieces are there for a reason. Dr. Ray is the one who has developed this method, and he's been working for a couple of years with CBS to develop this Spoken CBS. And there is a method to the madness. So all of these pieces have a purpose. They're there for a reason. So I know you may think, I really don't like that piece. I don't really want to tell it with mistakes. I'm just going to skip that part. We ask you not to skip the pieces because as we went through yesterday, there really is a reason for all of those pieces. And so trust the method, trust the recipe. Like we say, if you leave ingredients out of a recipe, it doesn't come out quite the same. And if you leave pieces of this method out, your results might not be quite the same. So I'm going to challenge you as you go through this process. You can watch our coaches and trainers. No matter who's leading, you should see all of those elements in there. Every storyteller is going to be different because we all have different personalities. Some are going to have a lot of facial expressions. Some are going to have a lot of hand movements. That's okay. That part's okay. We're all different in how you present the story. And I hope you'll see some people that you're like, oh, I can do the story like that. And other people you're like, I could never do that. And that's okay because you're all different too. So we look forward to seeing that. And that's why I love to have so many trainers and storytellers because you get to see so many people use this method.